Hello and welcome to the world-famous and award-winning Driving You Crazy podcast. This is the show where we talk about all things transportation, anything that gets you from here to there. I'm the traffic anchor and the transportation reporter for Denver 7 News, Jason Luber. If you would like to contact me, all my contact information in the description of the show, and you could always rate the show, which I sure would appreciate. One of the most unique vehicles that was shown at this year's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas was an electric three-wheeled car that generates some of its electricity through solar energy. The California-based tech startup and automotive firm Aptera Motors created this one-of-a-kind solar hybrid vehicle. It's the only one in existence right now in North America. Obviously, I wanted to explore this interesting technology, so I invited Steve Fambro. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Aptera Motors to be here on the show. Steve, thanks so much for being here on the world-famous Driving You Crazy podcast.
My pleasure, Jason.
So before we get into the current solar-powered car, you have perfected, I hear, at your home pizza dough. I've just been getting into some of that at my house, and it's not as easy as it seems. What's your secret?
I do a lot of business in Italy, and I'm always impressed with how inexpensive and ubiquitous a pizza are. Yeah. And here back home in the U.S., they're treated as if it's some pretentious luxury, $20, $25, hour long to get in. So I picked this up as a hobby with my son, and we just started with the basics: Italian flour, making our sourdough, and it's like a Saturday ritual for us now.
All right. Do you let it sit for a while? Do you make it right then and there, or do you let it sit so you can get some age to it?
I do a quick rise, about 12 hours.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, That sounds pretty involved. We've done it a couple of times. The stickiness is a problem for us. We're getting over that. So still some work to do.
It's a great hobby. I love it.
Well, we're going to get into the specifics of your new vehicle coming up in just a little bit. But I want to go back to the original idea you had to build a car from the ground up. You found out firsthand that it is not as easy when you founded Aptera Motors 20 years ago. Back then, you launched your Type 1, your three-wheeled vehicle, the two-seat electric vehicle. And it has to be obviously one of the most unique aerodynamic designs that's out there on the road. What was the thinking about creating the three-wheel instead of a four-wheel and the shape of the vehicle?
I wanted to convert an existing car to electric because I wanted an electric car. And I talked to a lot of people that did. I was an electrical engineer at the time. Before that, I was a technician in the Army. And I went to my Army school actually in Denver at the old Lowry Air Force Base.
Oh, yeah.
I was there almost a year. But later I went to school in GI Bill, became an engineer, wanted to build electric cars as a hobby. And all the people I talked to said they only got like 20, 30, 40 miles range. And I wanted to know why. And as an engineer, and it became clear to me, that it was drag, aerodynamic drag, and weight. And so I started looking for books. I found this book. You see, it's got a lot of tabs in it. I still use it. It's called The Leading Edge, and it's about those wacky solar car racers that the universities do.
Yeah.
And I read it from front to back, and inculcated all the information into my thinking, and said, if we want to design a passenger vehicle, hey, it can't be like this. People need to sit side by side. It has to be roomy, but yet it still needs the right kind of shape. And it was really the math and science that dictated that we have to make this shape in order to achieve a meaningful range.
Are they more unstable? Aren't they at a higher speed? So can you ride them on the interstate, or do you have a problem with any kind of wobble? Or are they pretty stable at higher speeds?
Very stable. I mean, that's why your tripod is a tripod and not a quad pod. That the three wheels are very stable. And the vehicle drives on the highway fast enough to lose your license. It'll go over 100 miles an hour. So it drives just like a regular passenger vehicle. You can't tell any difference other than it's very quick and you don't have to plug it in as much.
But your original design, and much like the solar-powered one that we'll talk more about in a bit, the vehicle really isn't designed to be driven down to Costco and loaded up with a bunch of stuff, right? Who is the target audience for your original design?
Well, with our current customers, this is like a second vehicle, maybe a third vehicle. But people really change their mind when they see it in person, because even though you think, well, it's a two-seater vehicle, this cargo space back here is actually more than most sedans with the back seat folded down. It's about 1,000 liters of space. So that's on par or greater than most hatchbacks or electric sedans on the market today. So you can go to Costco and fill it with all kinds of stuff. We've done
Okay, my guest is Steve Fambro. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Aptera Motors. We're talking about their new solar charged electric car. You can find them at aptera.us, aptera.us. Now, the first version of your vehicle didn't work out like you planned after it went bankrupt, but you came back and now you're trying it again here back in 2019. What was the spark that made you want to try another run at it?
Well, Chris and I left the original company in 2009. We had a serious disagreement with the new management that we hired. So we went off to do different things. I became a farmer, and Chris started a battery company and took it public. It was later in 2019 that we said, look, the battery technology has changed so much that we could theoretically go 400, 500, maybe even 1,000 miles with this vehicle because the batteries had so improved. And with some of the new solar technology that was out there, we realized that if we covered most of the top of the vehicle with solar cells, that we would cover most people's daily driving needs, meaning they just wouldn't have to plug it in to go to work every day, only on long trips. And that was really the spark for us.
You just mentioned battery technology. Where are we now and where are we going with the battery technology? Because I have a Chevy Volt. I've driven it for the last 10, 11, 12 years. And it's
Great.
starting to, it's the best car I've ever owned. But I can see that the battery is starting to degrade even after this amount of time. It was one of the first generations, so at most I would get maybe 45 miles on a charge with it. That's why it's great to have the generator in it. But you are saying in your literature that I'm reading that you could get up to 1,000 miles on one of your charges. How are you able to do that while the other companies who are making batteries and putting them in cars aren't able to get maybe 200 or 300, and then you obviously lose so much because of weather issues, temperature issues, load issues, all of those things?
So to be clear, on the 1,000 mile and the 600 mile, those are using the 4680 format. So those are larger cells. So we still need to make some adjustments on the vehicle to use those. But the 250 and the 400 mile range vehicle are done with the 21700 cells. That's the same one you'd see like in a Model 3 or something like that. Pretty well known. Ours, in our case, is made by LG, one of the biggest, most well-known suppliers in the world. So we're able to go 400 miles with only a 40 kilowatt hour pack, 42 kilowatt pack. And the reason for that is we only use about 100 watt hours per mile. Our design is to use about 100 watt hours per mile. And that's a fraction of what a typical EV uses. The reason for that is because it's very aerodynamic and very lightweight. So we're able to go that longer distance because our vehicle just uses such little electricity in comparison to other vehicles.
There was a revolution in computing when we went from disk drives to solid state. Is there another revolution coming for batteries where we're not using those little cells and there's going to be some kind of a solid state battery that's going to get us over that maybe 500, 600, 700 mile hump?
I think so. What we've seen with solar and batteries is that they are not stagnant by any stretch of the imagination. Every manufacturer on earth is working to improve the efficiency. And so Aptera has really taken a position that we're going to, choose best in class at the time, but we're going to keep eagle eyes on everybody else in the space and what they're developing. We felt that was more important than trying to double down on one technology specifically and then stay, sort of chained to that, as maybe some might do if they build a factory and manufacture their own batteries. We thought the advances that are happening are so great and so fast, especially in China. It's better for us to just choose the best in class and then keep our irons in the fire with many different manufacturers, able to take the best that's available.
My guest is Steve Fambro. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Aptera Motors. We're talking about their previous and also eventually their new solar charged electric vehicle. And you should know better than most. when you were studying electrical engineering at Utah, what that solar panels on a car is not a new concept. There's always talk, and has been for a long time, about putting solar panels on a vehicle. So what made it feasible right now to try the solar again when maybe it wasn't 10 years ago?
Well, when Chris and I restarted the company, we were doing the calculations. I broke out MATLAB, which is my modeling tool of choice, and we were determining how many cells would make a meaningful difference. And I think we said something like, well, if we just covered the roof, we would get 10 to 12 miles a day. And then sort of both of us simultaneously said out loud, well, why wouldn't we just cover the whole damn thing with solar? What would we get then? And then that answer was close to 40 miles a day, up to 40 miles a day in some locations. So we have a shape that really lends itself to being able to do that, maybe more than other cars, but we didn't have the technology to do it. And so we hired a team and built a very large intellectual property portfolio just in solar, and being able to make 3D curved solar panels that are also very rugged and lightweight. We had to develop that technology from scratch, and it's the biggest part of our IP portfolio.
Take me through some of those engineering challenges, because you have added weight, obviously. You have maybe some added drag there of the panels. As you said, you had to redesign them a little bit, versus the energy creation that can be put into powering the vehicle or put into the battery. So there has to be a formula that you said that shows the point where the power generation becomes higher than the energy drag.
Sure. Um, we built a model, a solar model, before we started the company, and put it on Chris's roof on his garage. And it was panels that were about the same size of these panels, in the same locations at the same angle, and we rotated it around different angles, throughout the year, and logged the energy that we were creating, and we would see peaks up to about 4 kilowatt hours over a day. Now, because the platform is so efficient, it's designed to use about 100 watt hours per mile. That calculation is very simple. It's 4,000 watt hours divided by 100 watt hours per mile, 40 miles per day. And so we thought, well, 40 miles per day, doesn't seem like a lot, right? Because you want to be able to take long trips, whatever. But if you have a big battery and you can drive 400 miles, but your daily charge is met by solar, then that felt like a no-brainer for us. Now, the reason why other manufacturers can't do it is just because their platforms use too much energy. They're too heavy. And so you might have, if you were to do it, cover the entire vehicle on a typical electric vehicle with solar, you might get an extra 5 or even 10 miles a day. That's not meaningless, but it's a lot of extra cost for very little value. Whereas in our case, the value is most people drive less than 40 miles a day. Statistically, you probably won't have to plug it in, or maybe you plug it in every few months. That's a game changer.
But that also means that you are parking your car outside all the time and not in a garage.
Yes. So you might be one of those people that instead of parking at the lowest first level closest to the entrance, you drive up to the top and park on top of the parking garage.
Or your home garage to keep it safe, because some places you don't want to maybe park it outside.
Yeah, most people, if they're commuting and working, they're either driving to work or parking in a parking spot. So maybe they're going to park, facing west, let's say, east-west, and maybe take up 2 parking spots, but they're going to get the best solar coverage, to maximize that range.
And so is that a problem, as you indicated? Because on my previous home, I had solar panels, and I looked at it for my current home, and it's just not in the right aspect. So do you have to be in the right aspect with the vehicle as well to be able to capture the perfect amount of solar energy to then charge the car efficiently?
If you want to get the most power, of course, yes, you probably want to be oriented a certain direction. And so we've already been thinking about how to guide customers to do that with the in-vehicle computer. When you go to park, we will show you the best orientation for that day. Obviously, it's going to change throughout the year, depending upon where you are. We also have some other tricks up our sleeves to make sure the rear panel gets more sun during the winter months, and we're gonna talk about that in a few weeks, maybe. But we'll guide the customer to park in the best, most advantageous position for solar power generation, for sure. You don't want to park in the shade. You want to park in a spot that's going to have a particular orientation.
So does that mean it could actually be more efficient then to drive a certain direction to where you're going, even if it is maybe a little bit more in the mileage.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it depends on how long your commute is. You're going to be parked longer than you're driving, most likely. So it's probably I would, just doing the math in my head, I would probably take the most least elevation change route to work, but then park in the most advantageous solar spot.
My guest is Steve Fambro, is co-founder and co-CEO of Aptera Motors. You can find them at Aptera, Aptera.us. I don't know how much time you've spent in the Midwest, especially in the winter. It's a gloomy and snowy place. It's not the best place in the world. So is the market for this kind of a vehicle more designed for California, Arizona, Colorado, and places in the country that see lots and lots of sun? And how well do you think it would drive in the snow?
Well, we haven't done so both questions, the market and then how will it drive in the snow. So we haven't done extensive winter testing yet. We're focusing on the sunny states for delivery and rollout. We have had the vehicle in Switzerland for an event, and we drove on a frozen lake and drove in the snow. It did just fine, but that's not any kind of extensive testing. But in terms of areas with more cloudy conditions, we've got reservations from all over the world, even in Germany, and of course Spain. Spain's very sunny. They have some of the most sunny days per year, but Germany does not. But we have interest in both places. What you're going to see is that those other places throughout the year, on average, so maybe not in the winter months, but on average throughout the year, you'll still have a meaningful amount of miles that are offset by solar. So maybe it's not 11 or 12,000. Maybe it's 5 to 8,000. That's still meaningful. That means you're still not plugging in every day. You're plugging in maybe statistically, every couple of weeks or something like that. Still very meaningful.
Now here in Colorado, we have 1,000-foot elevation just from my house to my work. There's 1,000-foot elevation difference, so I can see in my electric car how much that affects the range that I get on average. So is this vehicle apt to be used here in a state like Colorado, where you have a lot of elevation changes where there's going to be more load on it, or in a flatter place where, like Florida, where you do have the sun and you really don't have any elevation changes?
I think from a physics perspective, any EV is just going to do better with fewer elevation changes because there's just less current coming from the system and less loss. However, in Denver, you do have a special advantage of the air density. At sea level, the air density is 1.2 something kilograms per cubic meter. In Denver, it's maybe close to 1. So that means the drag load on the vehicle is much less at high speeds. So you're going to use less energy driving around Denver than you are, say, in San Diego. Plus, in the summer months, and I think throughout the year in general, you have higher insolation, higher amount of sun than you would in the coast. So I think you're going to do well in Denver.
Yeah, just ask my grill cover. It gets blown up every year because of the intensity of the
Right.
sun.
That's right.
I mean, you knew from living out here for a year.
Yep.
Yep. There are other ways as well as capturing energy back into the battery, like regenerative, the braking system. You had that on the Type 1 vehicle. I'm sure you'd have it on this one. But have you experimented with capturing wind power as well, maybe forcing the passing air that you're already driving through into a turbine of some sort to create even more electricity, even though you might be creating drag?
Yeah, no, we haven't looked at anything like that while moving, although we have our engineers are very aware of the interest from some of the community. So when parked, especially like camping, to be able to plug in other elements like maybe a portable wind generator, maybe more solar cells. And so we are aware of that need. We're not launching with that capability to take in those other sources, but it's very much on the front of our minds in terms of the next rev of the solar charge converter is to be able to take in other inputs for energy, whether it's wind or solar, mobile while you're out camping or parked.
Have you ever thought about designing it similar to my Chevy Volt, where I have the generator that's attached to the vehicle? Now, obviously, that adds a lot of weight and some more complications to it. The electric part of the car is, never needs any maintenance, which is fantastic. I just need a oil change maybe once every 10 or so months, depending on how much I'm using the generator. But have you experimented with that idea for a little bit?
We've talked about it. And I'll tell you, I mean, my wife has a plug-in electric hybrid, and she hasn't been to a gas station probably in 3 or 4 months, just because the daily need is covered by plugging it in, overnight in the garage, and that's great. And I think that works for a lot of people, and I think it's a great way to lower emissions. It's a great way to get to all of our environmental goals without being full electric. But as you look right now, the news of the industry, Ford, Stellantis, Porsche, Volkswagen, they are all really figuring out how to navigate the new world of electric, of gasoline, of hybrid, especially with like the change in maybe the posture from different regulations. And we're certainly no smarter than those guys. And the last thing we would do is want to complicate our mission by adding internal combustion engines. So, maybe in the future, we should always be looking at opportunities and reading the market and understand where it's going. But at the moment, we are focused solely and purely on a solar electric hybrid.
One of the problems with people, especially in Denver as it's growing, and some of the other cities around the country that are growing, they're not creating individual homes; they're creating apartment buildings. And with those apartment buildings, there are some parking spaces, but most of them are on the street. So it seems like this type of vehicle, because if I'm living on the sixth floor, I'm not able to run an extension cord out from my kitchen out the window and down to my car. So is that what this is designed for? Somebody who might be in that type of a situation, who can't necessarily always plug in sometimes, but be able to have a charge all the time?
Uh, yes, but I think that's going to be a great advantage for someone that lives in an apartment block, like you said, and they don't have access to charging. But I would say I think it's incumbent upon the local officials, whether it's in Denver or San Diego, from the mayor, city manager, other officials, to ensure in the codes that when we build new buildings, that we do set aside some provision for not free or public, but like paid charging, charge point, things like that. There should be a number of them that are sort of mandated to be installed when you get a permit to build a new 500 unit complex. You need to be able to build just like you would, handicap ramps and things like that. You need to be able to build those chargers there as well, because we do want to ensure people have freedom of energy choices, and we don't want to make it hard for them to charge electric vehicles.
Yeah, my guest is Steve Fambro, the co-founder and co-CEO of Aptera Motors, talking about their new solar charged electric vehicle. You can see it at aptera.us. They have videos all on the webpage right there of how the vehicle looks and acts. So are you looking to expand the design of the vehicle, maybe the size of the vehicle, maybe something that is a bit larger, or maybe something with four wheels?
Yeah, we have a really tantalizing product portfolio, but we're not showing it to anybody yet because we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, right? I mean, we've got 50,000 reservations of this vehicle. It's almost 3 years of production. We've got to get it into production and show the world that we can do what we say, that we can deliver on the product. And I think then it'll be appropriate for us to start sharing, future concepts and things like that. But right now, we'd be getting over our skis if we talked about that too much.
And you've probably heard from and have read problems that Elon Musk had when he was first starting his Tesla business, and the production of making a vehicle and bringing it to market. How is that going to go for you? You have very few of these vehicles right now. So how is that process going to look, and how are you going to create this vehicle on an assembly line basis, or less than that, to start filling these orders that you have?
We have a couple of advantages that Tesla did not have, that most manufacturers don't have, and that is we unlike a lot of people, we brought in Monroe and Associates from the beginning to help us design our vehicle. And so instead of a traditional automotive body with about 200 parts that have to be stamped and fixtured and welded together, we have fewer than 10 structural parts. So going from 200 to 10 parts radically simplifies our assembly procedure. It means the capital needs are less, the footprint of the factory is less, everything is less and smaller because we simply have fewer parts. Fewer parts also mean fewer tools, means less capex as well. So I think we're starting off at an advantage that most other manufacturers don't have, because we designed the vehicle from the beginning to be forged composite, And by doing so, we were able to consolidate 200 parts into about 10 parts.
But I think what people who own a Rivian are finding out that they're doing a similar thing where they have their body is very few parts. So if there's damage to it, it's not like you can just replace part of the fender. You have to replace a large part of the vehicle if you want it to look new, or you just have somebody try to fix the body a little bit. So what if there is a wreck or any kind of body damage if you have so few parts?
Yeah, I can't speak to how other manufacturers are doing it, but I'll tell you with Aptera, most of the exterior panels are replaceable. And I think all of us are surprised today in today's market at how quickly they total vehicles for what seems like the smallest amount of injury. That's our goal. I think everything from the front subframe forward is replaceable in terms of structure and body panels. So all of that can be replaced up until a certain point after a major collision. Then, like any vehicle, it might cost more to fix it than it would to replace it. So I would say we aim to be better than that, but I don't believe we'll be any worse than the industry standard.
Including the solar panels, where it would be easy to replace those. It's not just like I'm replacing the headlight. I mean, there's some complicated parts here.
Well, it is kind of like, actually, we did make it simple. Our goal is to make it simple because our partners are constantly improving the chemistry, the semiconductor efficiency on the solar cells. So we're going to Gen 7 cells very soon, which are going to be even more efficient than what we've been talking about. We want our customers to be able to replace panels with better panels, maybe at their choosing or if they're somehow damaged. So they are designed to be easily replaced.
So obviously, as we've been talking about, the car is taking pre-orders. So when do you expect to start filling those orders, and how much would one of these vehicles cost if I want to buy one?
Our launch edition vehicle, which is what we're selling right now, that's the 400-mile range, front-wheel drive, 42 kilowatt-hour battery pack. That retails for about $40,000. That's the plan right now. We should ship the first handful of those to a customer later this year. Right now, we're doing validation on those vehicles. So the vehicles we're building right now are that production design, but to be validated. So for durability, for thermal, for range, et cetera, that's what we're doing right now. Those are the tests that we're doing.
That's remarkable, $40,000 to be able to create a vehicle where you can still make a profit and sell it for $40,000.
And there's no other vehicle that comes close for cost-wise. It goes 400 miles.
Yeah.
So this is going to be probably close to half the price of the next available 400-mile vehicle. And our analysis of the sales data to date in North America shows that customers overwhelmingly choose range over anything else.
Totally. That's why I have my car, and I've loved it because I don't have to worry about range because I have the generator inside. There are different regulations between United States created vehicles and ones that go to Europe or Asia or Latin America. So how are you dealing with the different regulations that you have, or are you just making the one and then sending it to the different parts of the world?
It's an interesting question. It's something that we're working on right now. So we are focused on delivering the North American market first. However, we've already reached out to the Dutch RDW. It's their version of the DOT. We believe homologating the vehicle in Europe through the Netherlands will be our best bet because they have, even though they're all the countries in the EU share a large regulation set, some countries approach homologation a little bit differently or maybe more favorably depending upon the kind of the vehicle, if it's electric or if it's low carbon emission, that kind of thing. So we believe our best chance in a very specific vehicle category is through the Dutch RDW. And we hope to make some progress on that soon so we could announce Aptera's European homologation plans.
Are you going to create a special one with left-hand drive for the Japanese or the UK market?
Eventually. I mean, we have reservations. Lots of people in Australia want our vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's incumbent upon us to do that.
That'd be interesting to see it down there in Australia where it's very sunny, but the Australian outback can be quite treacherous.
Yeah, I mean, that's where they do a lot of these solar tests of these cars. That's where the whole thing got started. But it'd be great. It'd give me an excuse to go to Australia and Japan. I've never been.
There you go. Are you still taking orders? And if so, where can people sign up and get one of the cars?
Yeah, we have orders coming in every day. In fact, when we first started, we all had a an app that one of our engineers wrote to that we could download on our phone and then make a bell ring every time we got an order. And at first we thought it was cute, but then after the second or third day, it just ringing constantly. We said, "Oh, we can't deal with this anymore. That much popularity." Orders are coming in every day still, and they can go to aptera.us to read about the vehicle, to do a pre-order for a vehicle, or even to invest in the vehicle if they want to. If they want to be part of this movement, they can go to aptera.us and invest or reserve a vehicle.
And the inside looks pretty much like any other vehicle. I'm sure it has some kind of an iPad-looking, system where you're controlling the climate system and the radio and all those things. And you have a regular steering wheel, or is it, more like a airplane?
It's a yoke, and the reason for that is so we've got a good field of view from the driver to the screens. We have tiny mirrors, but we also have cameras and side view screens that are together. So you're able to build situational awareness while driving, looking at the screens, I think, better than you are with the mirrors, which are required by regulation. I think you'll find the interior very modern, but yet simple in that there's few buttons. Most features are through the screen or just occur automatically. So you're not really turning lights on and off, things like that. Those things happen. We try and make it as simple as possible for the user by making it very complex behind the scenes.
How does it feel this time around compared to the last time you were starting this company?
You know, man, first of all, I'm very humbled and thankful. The universe doesn't grant many second chances, so this is ours to lose. We got a great second chance opportunity, but the vehicle itself is just a step function better in every possible way. The team that developed the suspension, both our engineers here and Danisi Engineering in Italy, along with CPC, ETP, they designed a vehicle with a suspension that I don't know how to describe it. It feels phenomenal. I drive a brand new EV myself, or at least one. It drives great, but going over the potholes and bumps and things like that here in San Diego, this Aptera does a far better job. The suspension is just very compliant, but it handles well. It's a dream to drive. We all took turns last week when we were at an OEM test track. I probably took 3 or 4 laps around the oval, 7-mile oval. We've been driving it around. We're back to the track. I mean, everybody's driving it. Everybody loves it. It feels great. It performs great. Everything works. It's very boring. Nothing is breaking. So that means a few things are probably overbuilt. We want to break stuff and then fix it and improve on it. We don't want to have everything not break. So we still have some work to do.
Well, when you go over a pothole in a regular car, you're hitting it with a set of tires. In yours, you're only hitting it with one.
Unless you dodge it quick enough.
And then you get the back one in there, too. There you go. What was the reaction finally at CES? What was it like to see people come up to the car? And I'm sure they were wide-eyed going, whoa, this is really cool.
I've lived and worked all over the world. I've attended all kinds of events. I've never seen anything like this. It was absolutely nuts. It was mayhem. Anyone affiliated with the company, myself, my colleagues, we had to be switched on the entire day. It was one person after another, with questions, with enthusiasm, with just desire to see and learn more about the vehicle. And it was nonstop. Even when the other booths had shut down at night, there's still a line of people waiting every night just to see or sit in the Aptera. It was very humbling to see that. And it just tells us that we're onto something big. We've got to deliver what we promised, and that's the mission ahead.
Steve, it's a fascinating vehicle. I hope everybody gets a chance to see it. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with this vehicle, and I hope it can get 1,000 miles eventually like you want.
Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate the opportunity.
And again, you can find them at aptera.us, aptera.us, and you can get that link also from the description of this show. And when you first click on and I should have told this to Steve, when you first click on the website, it starts showing you the vehicle. And to me, it looks like one of those pod racers that was in Star Wars. I should have told Steve that, because as I'm looking at it right now, it does. It has the gull wing doors that open to the side. That when I look at a vehicle now, because of where I live in Colorado, snow is an issue. Cold weather is an issue. Ice is an issue. And so when I look at a vehicle like this, where is the door handle? What if it gets covered in ice or snow? How do you get the snow off the car? All of those issues that you could have when you're looking at a vehicle that's sitting in cold weather. If it's going to be 2 degrees below zero and you're letting your car sit out, how does that affect what you have? How the car performs and all of that. So obviously the batteries are going to be degraded a little bit because of cold weather or super hot weather. That's, as Steve said, that's the way it is with any vehicle, any EV are going to have to deal with that. But it's really an interesting looking vehicle. And if you go onto their reserve page where you click on reserve one, it says their target price is $40,000, as Steve said. When you click on that, it said your estimated price after savings is $32,500. They're saying that comes from estimated fuel savings of $7,500. You can't really say that because maybe I'm coming from a Tesla. Maybe I'm not coming from another vehicle. Maybe it's going to be a third vehicle that I have. So you can't really do it that way. But anyways, they do it. Anyway, they have some of the options, right? Different colors and the interior color and that sort of thing. But they also have some other pre-order upgrades like an open pilot. And I'm not sure what that is, but it's for $1.3 thousand. So $1,300. They have a camping kit for $600. They have a pet kit for $300 and an off-road kit for $1,000. So and it doesn't say. So when I click on the off-road kit or the pet kit, it doesn't say. Oh, okay, there it is. There's a picture. It just has like a mat in the back with a dog bowl. The camping kit has this. It looks like it's a camper. Like if like the back of a pickup truck, kind of, where it has a ramped roof. And then it just like a sleeping bag, I guess. The open pilot looks like it's just a GPS deal. And the off-road kit is, I don't know, something off the back of the car there. So anyway, it's a really interesting looking vehicle, and it does as you look through this thing, it has solar panels all over it. So I hope that it works. It'd be pretty interesting to see how that works, and I wonder what other kind of technologies like wind and the solar and all of it can help generate more electricity. That's free and easy if you're going to be running your car. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and hit me up on my and any of the links in the description of this show. Goodness, I can't get it out. It's just been one of those days for me. Anyway, thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. And until next time, I'm Jason Looper, the traffic guy. Be safe, and as always, happy motoring.